Don't make a sound. People tell me now. I got to stand my ground, my ground. I know I'm not the Don't fail me now.
Hello, Inside the WSL is back, and there is a lot to discuss this week, including all the new players coming into the league during the transfer window, plus the next round of fixtures, which could have an impact on the title race, Champions League qualification, and could another team be dragged into the relegation battle with Leicester and Birmingham. All of that, plus we'll also be discussing a new campaign that's been launched to help battle sexism in football with Everton's Izzy Christiansen. So lots to get through. It's going to be a very busy show. And I guess this week, our former New Zealand captain, Rebecca Smith, also from The Telegraph, Tom Gary. Really good to see you guys. I hope you're ready to do some talking. There is a lot to get through. Let's start with the transfer window. There's been quite a few new players coming into the WSL. Tom, for you, what's been the standout transfer so far?
Yeah, hi Jess. I think it has to be Stina Blackstenius. I think that's a piece of business Arsenal will be really, really pleased with for the next few years. And it's somebody who several clubs around the world wanted to sign. She could have almost gone anywhere that she wanted to, really, and she's chosen Arsenal, which is a really big statement from the North London club in terms of where they see themselves going in the future. And I think it's one that certainly fans of clubs like Manchester United, Tottenham and others in the WSL will be disappointed that it wasn't their team who snapped her up on a free transfer when somebody of that calibre was available, and Arsenal have done really well to sign her.
Yeah, Bex, Arsenal have been quite busy actually in the window, as well as Blackstenius. They've also got VM Reuter as well and Rafael Sosa. But perhaps their most important signing, you could say, of the window is extending Leah Williamson's contract. What have you made of the business they've done this January?
Yeah, it's good. And you can see that actually, they started off really well in the season and hit a few bumps recently, but with this income of players, and I totally agree with Tom that Stina is probably one of the top players right now on the market globally, not just in this league, to be looking to get, that you can see that they're really trying to push for that title win and also need that reinforcement for the Champions League. So definitely think that they are doing a great job. And Leah is, also not a surprise given the fact that she constantly says that it's her family and she's Arsenal through and through. But still, she's a top player, a top defender, which are hard to come by as well. A leader on the pitch, and it's still great to be able to sign her as well.
Yeah, and important to note that she made her return to the side yesterday in the Conte Cup, her first match for Arsenal since November. That will be a welcome return for Leah Williamson. Looking at City, though, Tom, also haven't made any signings, neither has Manchester United, but with Manchester City, again, they've tied down some key players on big long-term contracts. Their captain, Steph Horton, who they've definitely missed through injury. Lauren Hemp and Esme Morgan. What have you made of what they've done in the window?
Yeah, I think Gareth Taylor will be very pleased to have tied down Steph Horton, Lauren Hemp and Esme Morgan for sure. But I also think that they do still need to try and bring in somebody, perhaps as another goalkeeper would be important. They've been impressed with how Keating has done in the game since she's come in, which is encouraging for them. But I do believe they're in the market for a goalkeeper. There was a suggestion a few weeks ago of Jennifer Falk coming over from Sweden. We believe that she's now going to stay in Scandinavia, so that's perhaps one that Man City and others have missed out on, but still expecting Man City to stay in the market for a goalkeeper right up until the deadline if needed.
Okay, so there's a fair few new players coming into the WSL, Bex, but there's a few that will be away at the Asian Cup. Now that runs from today, the 20th of January, and doesn't end until the 6th of February. And quite a few teams will be missing some key players. And this is a crucial part of the season, considering the season is only 22 games long. Looking at Arsenal, 4 players they will be missing. And this couldn't really come at a worse time. They're out of form, and they're now losing Lydia Williams, Steph Catley, Caitlin Ford, Mana Iwabuchi. What impact do you think that might have on their season over the next couple of weeks, next couple of games, Bex?
Yeah, I think this transfer window and bringing in those new players has been critical for them because of this. And it's a good call, actually, when you look at this and you see how many Australian players are playing in the league. You mentioned, Jess, as well. It's always good to have diversity in the team for these types of reasons. And also just looking at the calendar, it really doesn't make sense to have that window anymore. And I know that FIFA has been looking at that window for a long time, but it really does disrupt leagues during that January period, because you're just coming back from the Christmas break, you're going into your preseason, and then you're off to your national team, right in a critical part of the season when you really need to start the second half of the season strong. So I think that it will have a major impact on some of the teams. Probably Arsenal a little bit less, given the players that are coming in now, but certainly it's going to be hard for those players coming back as well, because you think about where they're traveling to, taking into consideration that they have 3 or 4 matches coming then back into the league from travel, so they're going to need some time to readjust to maybe the English weather as well. So yeah, it'll definitely have an impact. I mean, it's sunny some days lately, so.
Sunny. I'm looking out the window now and it's sunny here in West London. Tom, at Chelsea, we always talk about their incredible strength in depth, but they're losing Sam Kerr and Ji-sung Young. That's a lot of goals and a fair few assists.
You're right, although I suppose as Pernilla Harder's hat-trick on Wednesday night shows, they still aren't short of star quality up front. But no, you're absolutely right. Sam Kerr's a huge miss, and particularly with some of the big games that are coming up for Chelsea. And it's such an important time in the season, and it's very congested now, just 4 points between those top 4 sides. It's so close, and a big loss for Chelsea. But one thing that I think will really benefit Chelsea is that they've got that depth. We haven't even mentioned Beth England, for example, and someone like that coming in is a luxury that so few other teams are able to have. So I think Chelsea will be okay. I think they'll come through this period relatively unscathed.
We say that, but with my journalist hat on and wanting to be dramatic, Chelsea play Arsenal, which, come on, is as close to a title decider as you're probably ever going to get, on the 11th of February, which is just 5 days after the Asian Cup finishes. So, if you imagine those players that have left are going to get to the latter stages of the tournament, they then got to come back to England, as you were saying, Bex, reacclimatise. Could that have an impact on that key match, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely. I think any time that you're traveling, and especially that far, it is far to get to Asia from England, and that travel does, it sits in your legs. You're sitting for hours on end, and also it's hard to acclimatize into the Asian climate, then back into, like I said, the English one.
Okay, so let's have a look at the weekend's fixtures, because there's some, COVID permitting, there's some great matchups here coming this weekend. Third against fourth as United host Spurs. That race for Champions League qualification really hotting up. Chelsea will be hoping to close the gap on Arsenal. They travel to out of form Brighton. Now, Leicester against Villa. I think this will be a big game in terms of the relegation race, because a win for Leicester will put them within 1 point of Aston Villa, although Villa will have 1 game in hand. We're going to be discussing Everton going to West Ham with Izzy Christensen after the break. And concluding the weekend's football, you've got to join us on Sky Sports for a reinvigorated City taking on stuttering Arsenal. Bex, when we look at Arsenal, their demise is clear for all to see. 5 losses in their last 6 games, and they haven't really looked stable for quite a few weeks now. It was clear to see in their loss against Birmingham the kind of disarray that they have at the moment in their back line. What do you think is going wrong?
They have all the right ingredients. I just think that they haven't been able to join up as a team. And you'd mentioned having Jonas on the sidelines, who's, quite a character. He's quite emotional. And likes to sort of leave everything out there. And sometimes I wonder if just from a leadership standpoint, they sort of need a little bit more calm on the pitch as well. I mean, with some of the
It's
players.
interesting you mentioned that, actually, Bex, because he got himself a yellow card on the touchline in the Conte Cup last night. He was absolutely incensed with a challenge that came in from one of Manchester United's players, Martha Thomas, on Beth Mead, and looked very, very angry. It looked as though he lost his cool for a few seconds. Could that, his body language and the way he conducts himself on the touchline, be having an impact?
I mean, I think always how your coach acts has an impact on you as a player. You're always looking, or hearing from the sidelines, and it does affect you as a player. And I think that what this team needs, and you look at sort of Kim Little as a leader, very calm, doesn't lose her head ever. I've never seen her scream at anybody. So when you look at sort of the leaders on that pitch, even saying Kim Little and scream in the same sentence feels a little bit strange. But, just the type of players that are playing there, they're also older players, they're mature players. So I don't know how much enthusiasm they might need rather than just, some talking to that sort of makes sense. More of I think what they're missing more is a game plan, and when that game plan doesn't really go to plan, being able to change and being able to adjust during the games. And I haven't seen a lot of that in Arsenal this season.
Tom, let's talk about the Champions League qualification battle really hotting up. Tottenham are in with a shout, of course. Manchester City are in with a shout, as are Manchester United. Now, I wonder, Spurs conceding late against West Ham in their last game, how much will they rue that? Because that's dented, perhaps, their chances of qualification. And now they come up against another team also trying to do the same thing in Manchester United.
You're absolutely right that will have dented their chances. But I think, to be honest, the pressure is off Tottenham this season. I don't think anybody expected them to be in the top three at the start of the campaign. So just to be in the mix for it now shows great improvement. And I think they'll just be enjoying it and they'll be trying to take the pressure off themselves. And because the pressure is on the Manchester clubs who have that higher expectation based on their investment, to be getting into the top three. So Tottenham are I would say, the outsiders. I don't think come May we'll see them in the top three, but it doesn't mean they won't have had a very, very good season. It's fascinating. I mean, I still believe, and I know we've spoken about this previously, but I still believe that Manchester City will be the side to charge through and eventually be in the top three. I think that there is still a gap between them and their rivals once they've got all their players back there. But Manchester United are in excellent form. 5 clean sheets in a row for Manchester United, which shows how well they've been playing defensively. They look excellent with that combination of Millie Turner and Aoife Manning at the back. I thought Katie Zellum was very, very good against Arsenal in the Conti Cup as well. And they've got players in good form now going forward as well. Leah Galton with a couple of goals against Birmingham. Alessia Russo's in the goals as well. Ella Toone, of course. So Manchester United are in very good form. I think give it a few more weeks and we'll start to see last season's top 4 starting to create a bit of a gap. I know there's a few fixtures for people to catch up on. But yeah, if I was to give you a prediction for the weekend, I imagine home wins for both of the Manchester clubs would be my thought process.
Oh, he stuck his neck out again. We will definitely hold you to that and hold you accountable for your predictions. Bex, I just want to get a word on the relegation battle because that's almost as exciting as at the top of the table. It seems to be between, at the moment at least, Birmingham and Leicester. But actually, perhaps Villa might get dragged into it.
Yes, and with the game this weekend, Leicester, Aston Villa, like you had already mentioned, I think that's going to be a great game. So my top 2 for the weekend are Manchester United, Tottenham, and Leicester, Aston Villa, because I think that, Aston Villa also they're investing. Leicester made, a change mid-season in their leadership, so they're seriously here to play. They don't want to go down either. So, and then obviously Birmingham with that last win over Arsenal. So these 3 teams are just really, really interesting to watch right now. And you just never know what happens. This part of the season is by far my favorite part of the season because, as Tom mentioned, you're going to see the top teams with the deeper benches rising to the top and then the lower ones starting to struggle. And we're going to see where, the quality will will rise.
It's just been a fantastic season. There's so much still to look forward to as well as we're at this halfway point. Tom, Bex, it's been absolutely fantastic to have your company on Inside the WSL once again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Real pleasure.
Now, stay with us because after the break, we'll be discussing a new campaign looking to tackle sexism in football with Everton's Izzy Christensen. See you soon. Welcome back. You're watching Inside the WSL. Now, after their video highlighting sexism in football went viral, the Her Game 2 campaign has received backing from football clubs up and down the country. Earlier, I spoke to their founder, Kaz May. Kaz, welcome to Inside the WSL. Great to have you on. You are the founder of Her Game 2. For those that don't know, just explain what this campaign is.
So Her Game 2 is a campaign that was started by myself and 11 other female football supporters who, based on our own experiences, we wanted to eradicate the sexism and misogyny surrounding football, not just the misogyny in men's football, but also to look for equality in the women's side as well. So start to inspire and encourage upcoming female talent, get them involved, get them feeling like they're allowed to play, that it's not just a men's game, that it's all inclusive. So there's lots that we can do off this campaign, but initially it was just all about the sexism and misogyny and just trying to stamp that out of football.
Your campaign went viral, didn't it?
Within the first 24 hours of launching it, so we launched it on FA Cup final day, 15th of May, and straight away we were second trending. Obviously I didn't expect to beat the FA Cup final, but to be second behind it was incredible. And then in the first 24 hours we'd hit 1 million views on our original campaign video. We had tweets of support from football league clubs across the country and the EFL. We had people we look up to like Laura Woods and Michelle Owen tweeting us support, which was amazing. And it was just, it was really overwhelming.
In terms of players supporting as well, what's the uptake been like?
We had Izzy Christensen, who plays for Everton Ladies, and she is she's incredible. She's supported us vocally. She was on TalkSport, and then she backed us there, which is incredible. In terms of male footballers, we've had quite a few lower league ones. We had a couple of championship ones. Ideally we'd like to get more with these link ups with these Premier League clubs. We're hoping that we'll get more speaking out. We had Chris Martin, who plays for Bristol City, speak out yesterday about how he backs the campaign. You find that it's a lot of players that have young daughters that sort of back it the most, because they don't want their daughters to be faced with sexist comments when just trying to love and play football. So we've had a few, but ideally we'd like more, but I'm sure that in time, when it starts to grow, we'll get more support from high profile footballers.
What's the ultimate goal here then, Kaz? When you fast forward to a year's time, 3 years time, 5 years time, what do you hope that this campaign will achieve?
I'd like to see more young girls being inspired to play football, to watch football, to work in football. So in terms of being, say, a physio, for example, I want to see more girls, say, in colleges. That's why we want to do work with colleges, to get them inspired and encouraged to go into that sort of role, and just not have to have that fear of being faced with misogynistic comments. Obviously, it's a lot of work to do, because it's going to take some time, and it's going to be a lot of educating to do that. But if we could get these modules into schools and start from a young age, then maybe we could start encouraging and inspiring young girls to get into it. And then Sky Sports are doing brilliantly with the visibility of female football. The WSL being on Sky Sports is massive, and I'm hoping that actually with that visibility we'll start seeing more people watching women's football, physically going to watch women's football like in the stadiums and having more of a crowd. And then we'll start to see a more fair game, if you like, in terms of men and women's, and it would start being seen as equal, which would be great. That's the goal.
Wouldn't that be incredible? Kaz, you're doing some great work. Congratulations on the success of the campaign, and long may it continue.
Thank you so much.
One player who's supporting the Her Game 2 campaign is Everton's Izzy Christensen, who joins us now. Great to see you, Izzy. What made you want to get behind that campaign?
Well, I mean, firstly, it's obviously a really good initiative that the club have joined. I believe we're the first Premier League club to support the Her Game 2 campaign. And I think it's really important that us as the women's team are on board with the campaign as well, and highlighting the magnificent work that's been done by the 12 supporters who have founded the initiative. And for us to get on board and show that we're backing it is a strong message.
I spoke to Kaz about some of the issues that she's faced personally being a female football supporter. But what about yourself as a female player? Have you had issues?
I wouldn't say I haven't had any issues as a player. I've done a little bit of work in the media, some punditry work, and I have received some comments on Twitter. But I actually said, like prior to this, with sort of club interviews, that like it's something which I think you leave yourself exposed to when you're a woman in the game and you're fighting for sort of that perception to be changed, that for as many sort of bad comments as there's also some really positive ones. So I think it's important that we focus on that.
Let's talk about matters on the pitch now. There's, I think, about 8 games since the new manager has come in. How do you feel the team are responding to his way of playing?
I think that things have been quite difficult so far. We've had a lot of kind of disruptions and stop-starts. I think obviously the most recently being we've had our first 2 games of the new calendar year cancelled due to obvious issues. And I think that for us to get back up and running again, it's really important to get a run of games and gather a little bit of momentum, because we all know that football's about momentum, and we really want the opportunity to get onto that and try and start putting some results together.
Okay, well, you've got the chance to put things into practice again this weekend. Let's have a look at your next few fixtures actually coming up. We've picked out your next 6. You've got Manchester City coming up a bit later in the calendar. Are you the type of player that looks at the fixture list and looks forward to those higher profile teams that you come up against, like Manchester City?
Yeah, without a doubt. I've really enjoyed playing against, obviously, the teams above us so far. Obviously, we're looking to break down the barrier of beating one of those teams. But for now, obviously, as cliche as it sounds, Jess, sorry to say, but it's taking each game as it comes. And I'd like to
you're
think
not going to say it.
I did say it, however. But no, I think that we'd like to think that we can go into that fixture with momentum. And I think when you've got momentum on your side in football, you can put yourselves in a very strong position. So we'll be looking at that game in the future. But for now, I think we need to think about gathering a little bit of momentum and making sure that we're picking up points in the previous fixtures before that.
And West Ham is your next game. They've only lost 1 in their last 7, and that was last night in the Conti Cup against Chelsea. They don't concede many goals. So how do you go about breaking them down, Izzy?
Well, that's it. I think that, firstly, West Ham have had a superb first half of the season. I think full credit to their manager and the way that he's built that team into a resilient machine, if you like. I think their result last night against Chelsea, and not often teams score goals against Chelsea. To score 2 kind of gives an indication of where they're at. But we've got a plan and we've already begun working on it. We obviously played them just before Christmas and got a 1-1 draw. Hope that we could maybe take 3 points from that game. But on the day, I think it was a fair result. So obviously we'll be looking to go on better this time and implementing the game plan, which we'll have and we'll be ready for come Sunday. Well,
Izzy, best of luck for the game, and thank you for joining us on Inside the WSL.
Thanks for having me.
So I told you we had a lot to pack in, and my goodness, we packed it in, didn't we? That's all we have time for on Inside the WSL. But let me just tell you about some live WSL action coming up on Sky Sports. On Sunday, what impact could this have on the title race? City host Arsenal. That's on Sky Sports Football from 6 p.m. Join Lindsay and the team for that one. More of the Gunners on Thursday as they take on Brighton. That's on Sky Sports Premier League from 7 p.m. So that means, unfortunately, there'll be no Inside the WSL next week. Now, of course, you'll remember that Arsenal thrashed City 5-0 back in September. Will City get their revenge on Sunday? See you soon.
Chance for Miedemar, and she doesn't miss those. And here's Kim Little for Arsenal. Oh, and it's number 3 for Arsenal. Manchester City look dead and buried. And that is number 5 for Arsenal to cap off a fine night.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.